Hello, this is Dr. Patrick Hu. I'm the current president of SITC and the CEO of the Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa, Florida. I'm so happy to have Dr. Anna Anderson and Dr. Bob Ferris with me today. Dr. Anderson is from Harvard Medical School and Dr. Ferris is from the University of Pittsburgh. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Pleasure.
Pleasure too.
We're going to be talking today about the best of SITC 2021. We just had a really amazing annual meeting, and Drs. Anderson and Ferris are going to highlight some of those findings that we had at that meeting. So Dr. Ferris, you helped to plan the second annual press event. Can you give us a few highlights from that?
Sure, and thank you, Dr. Hu and the SITC for organizing this. It was really fun. It was virtual, but the science was fantastic, as we come to expect over the years from SITC. And I was intrigued that folks were really exploring cell therapies for different tumor types, solid tumors outside of the hematologic malignancies, where we've seen such impressive results over the years in the approved products for CAR T cells. And so I think the search for the appropriate target and delivery and even whether you arm a T cell or a natural killer cell, those cell therapies stood out to me. And then, we're all faced with resistance to PD-1 inhibition. And so folks trying to combine with agonists or antagonists or small molecules. There was a CD40 agonist plus pembrolizumab that Dr. Harriet Kluger talked about. Dr. Tony Choueiri combined lenvatinib with PD-1 inhibition in GU cancers. So I think that was another theme, is PD-1 resistance and trying to improve responses and combining sort of next generation combinations with tyrosine kinase inhibitors or other agents such as androgen and other hormonal inhibition in various cancer types.
Very interesting. It's great to see some of these combinations starting to bear fruit, such as with anti-CD40 activating the dendritic cells and macrophages and B cells. Very exciting. Dr. Anderson, we talked a bit about COVID at the meeting, and we actually had Dr. Ugur Sahin, who's the CEO of BioNTech, join us. We gave him the Medal of Honor along with his spouse Aslam Terechi for really developing the first effective COVID vaccine through mRNA technology that came from tumor immunology. I mean, he's a member of SITC, a longtime member of SITC that developed the COVID vaccine. So they talked a lot about mRNA vaccines and how they've been working on that with cancer. And there's a whole session on mRNA vaccination and cancer. Where do you see this field going and in terms of cancer vaccines?
Well, I anticipate seeing a lot more activity in this area in the years to come. Now that we have a validated proof of concept that this really works, I mean, that's really what every field needs, is that champion to go out there and prove the naysayers wrong. For so many years, RNA vaccines were just not thought to ever make it prime time. And now we can make them quickly, as we all know. They work. We may need some boosters here and there, but that's pretty easy to do. So I anticipate a lot of activity, and I'm hopeful that we'll see some great responses on the end of that.
Wonderful. It's especially exciting as we diagnose cancers earlier. So it's possible that with blood-based diagnoses, we'll find out about cancers much earlier, and an RNA cancer vaccine could be the answer for that.
Even a personalized RNA cancer vaccine, right?
Absolutely. I thought it was really enlightening when Ugur Sahin showed how they made those personalized vaccines within 6 weeks, and that was really what allowed them to make the COVID vaccine in 10 months and 8 days to get it approved from the day they started, which was really amazing. And he showed the process of making the cancer vaccine And then right under it, he showed the process of making COVID vaccines, and they were exactly identical.
Yeah.
So that shows how we can really learn from one field to the other. Dr. Anderson, you were there for the inaugural ceremony of the Fellows of the Academy of Immuno-Oncology. Tell us about that and the relevance.
That was really a fantastic event, and I was very fortunate to be part of it. Again, this is another great example of SITC leadership. There have been so many unsung heroes in our field that have really been there from its genesis and stayed the course despite all the negativity, and to be able to recognize all those people who got us to where we are today in a really meaningful way. I thought it was really great when Alan Corman went up there, and the first things he said is, "I would like to thank the Academy." And it was great to be able to hear that. And he made a joke out of it, saying, "I'll probably never be able to say that ever again in my life." But it was really a great way to honor all these giants in our field that we now, we stand on their shoulders. So was really fantastic.
Speaking of giants, Dr. Ferris, we honored a couple of giants who passed away recently, Dr. Tom Waldman and Dr. Mac Cheever. What do you feel was the significance of their contributions?
Well, it was a difficult time for many of us when these giants passed. And many folks at SITC were close to them. They were staples. Icons not only in the field, but their attendance at SITC they were part of the meeting where we would see old friends and talk science in the hallway. And so to be sitting at SITC having a memoriam for them was both appropriate and touching, but also challenging, I think, for many of us, and a good opportunity to reflect on their contributions. So Tom Waldman, known to many of us and all of his time at the NCI, focusing on the IL-2 receptor and IL-15. I mean, these are major contributions in our understanding of not only cytokine biology, but potentially harnessing them for therapy. And by strange kind of coincidence, I had originally met Dr. Waldman at a meeting of the Cancer Immunotherapy Network, organized by Mac Cheever. And so, unfortunate that they were both being remembered in the same session, but it occurred to me life's kind of quirks. I would say I knew Mac better, very actively involved in the CITN from Pittsburgh, and he was great friends with Olya Finn here, one of my good friends and mentors here in Pittsburgh. And so I have to say a tear came to my eye. Usually I only have tears at SITC meetings when I see that I was scooped, when the data scoops my lab. But in this case, a different tear came when Olya Finn talked about Mac. And I think the best part was her remembering his favorite radio show out of Berkeley. It was called Silent Storm. And she said when Mac told her that this was kind of his favorite radio station, she said, "Silent Storm, that embodies Mac Cheever." The guy was obviously an amazing effort around, and he brought all of us together around getting NCI to really think about immunotherapeutics before they began working, prioritizing them, and he was just tireless. So that was really what was touching to me, and thinking about Mac, listening to that Berkeley radio station, I thought really put a nice touch to the whole event.
I thought it was also wonderful that their families could be there, and just to see how much they were loved and appreciated.
For sure.
Well, our exhibit hall was sold out this year. It's really wonderful to see how SITC has expanded over the years. We had many great exhibitors and posters there. What to you guys stood out the most there?
Yeah, I was amazed at the attendance in it, and the posters and the flow through. It's always challenging. I first have to not let it pass to congratulate SITC on, at least for me, the biggest in-person meeting after, I'd hate to say after, during the pandemic, since we're not out of it. And the fact that SITC pulled it off and had an exhibit hall, because one of the key features is the linkage between academics at SITC and the regulatory bodies of FDA, the funding bodies at the NIH, and pharma, our collaborators. And that exhibit hall always embodies a way to link us up. And we have the posters there, and usually we have wine and food. But I think that was the thing I found interesting, is we were actually able to kind of get back to the way it felt in previous meetings. Not quite fully there, but as we continue to come out of this, I think that exhibit hall and the poster session and all of the interactions is one of the things that I think all of us find very attractive. And some meetings have to really drive attendees over to the exhibit hall, but this happens spontaneously at SITC meetings, because very often that's where you strike up a new collaboration with a pharma colleague. Sometimes that colleague was in academics last week, so it's a wonderful aspect of SITC's strength.
Yeah, I think it was wonderful that we could have an in-person component of this meeting. It was great to see everyone interacting, and the poster sessions especially are wonderful because you can meet with young trainees, and I think that interaction where young trainees and more seasoned investigators can meet is just wonderful. And it was great to see all the companies there exhibiting. All the big companies were there. The big associations like AACR had a nice booth. Marge Fody was there. It was really wonderful to see. Another favorite thing, of course, was our checkpoints party, which was great to have in person after a couple of years off. So what was your favorite part of that night?
Well, I was there. Sounds like maybe Anna wasn't able to stay long enough to dance. I had a couple pictures taken of a former grad student who's now a postdoc, and she put them up on social media. So I don't ever want too much of my dancing capability, put on display. But I had so much fun there. The band sounded great. So Patrick, congratulations to all of you who, on top of, we usually say there's triple threat and quadruple threat, and to have your musical talent, you're the quintuple threat. But my favorite song is Mustang Sally. I think it gets everyone out on the dance floor. It takes advantage of Rachel and Lisa's voices, and I think it kind of gets everybody geared up. So when I thought back, that's the song that embodies the checkpoints. But really, the whole multiple sets, the multiple different instruments. The checkpoints is kind of expanded, but it has the flexibility. It's kind of a band that can expand, go toward the horns. Go toward harmonica when those Nobel laureates attend. So it's really a versatile band, and I have to say I've heard you guys practice. I've heard you during ASCO, during SITC. It's just tremendously fun, and another way to create interactions amongst the attendees, and it shows the trainees that immunotherapists are fun. We're not old stodgy scientists, but we can kind of break loose, and you'll be dancing around with people at all phases. You may have a CEO of a pharma company, spin-off, cancer center director up on stage playing the keyboards. And so it's one of those staples of SITC, and this year was lived up to its expectations.
It is one of really great energy. Like the vibe is always so strong and so positive at the checkpoints party. It's really a highlight.
It is one of those things that gives SITC its family feel. So it's wonderful that we welcomed a lot of people into the family this year. A lot of people, this was their first SITC, and a lot of people coming back to SITC. It's wonderful to see how it's grown. And I did see you, Dr. Ferris, out there cutting some rug. You got some great moves.
Well, Bernie Fox tends to try to bring you up to the front. He had his tie-dye checkpoints shirt on, which is sort of the standard issue maybe original shirt.
My favorite song we do is "Don't Stop Believing," not only because it's a good piano part, but because it really does embody all those years that no one believed immunotherapy would work, and now everyone believes it. So that's just a ton of fun. Dr. Anderson, what did you think about the hybrid nature? We did it in person, but we also had a hybrid meeting where people joined us from all over as well. In fact, we probably had 2,500 joining in person and about the same number joining us in a hybrid fashion and virtual fashion. So it was really half and half, and it was a large meeting overall. What did you think about the hybrid nature of the meeting?
I was surprised, very pleasantly surprised at how well it actually worked. Some people were submitting questions, and it was really great. I was surprised at how well it worked, and it seemed like it was really a great way to get widespread participation.
Yeah, when we were giving Özlem Türeci the Medal of Honor with Ugur Sahin, she was still in Germany, and it was like she was right there. And they were able to answer questions from the audience, I thought, which was nice. And we could also get, the moderators had questions from the audience that they could ask, but the people that were virtual could hear the microphones in the audience. So I thought that was nice. We'll probably keep doing hybrid meetings in the future because it's great to be in person, but some people just can't break away. And so it's nice to really increase the influence and impact that SITC has then.
And I would point out other virtual meetings, many of the folks recorded talks, which I think works well, but there was a concerted effort to have them live for the Q&A or to present live. And I think all of us, it's interesting, sometimes in a virtual meeting, they want to have a IT check, a Zoom check. I don't think anybody needs that anymore. We use that, probably know how to do that more than drive into the office these days. But it really worked beautifully, the way people can send questions through chat or even just texting because the individual who's giving the lecture. And I went to one with our colleagues at BioNTech, and they had recorded it, and it wasn't quite the same. So to have them responding to questions was really special as well.
I also want to shout out to the SITC staff because there's a lot behind the scenes, both the SITC staff that were there in Washington, D.C., but the SITC staff also that were at home base in Milwaukee. They were also behind the scenes helping with a lot of that hybrid nature of the meeting. Dr. Anderson, earlier in the week, you were also part of the Board of Directors meeting, and there are a lot of new initiatives that were discussed as well. What's the most exciting to you?
I think there are two that it's hard to choose between. One is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Initiative, which I think is very timely. It's great to increase our reach of the society and bring new ideas, new perspectives, new backgrounds into our field. And I'm also very excited, and I'm curious to see what comes out of our initiative to partner with engineers. I think this is a great example yet again of how SITC is always ahead of the curve, always leading the way for innovation, for partnerships across the field. SITC is not just a society that brings people together and rehashes sort of, what's been published in the journal over the last year, but really tries to, break new ground. And I think this is one of those. And I think it's being done in a very thoughtful way, in a very, deliberate way to get engineers involved in our field. There's so much they have to offer, and I think there could be a lot of great synergy and partnership that comes out of it.
So I'm really excited about that too, and there's so many aspects of engineering that could cover. There's from molecular engineering and making different kinds of molecules to nanoparticles to 3D modeling of tumors. So there's a lot of 3D printing. I mean, there's a lot of ways that we could work with engineers. So I'm really looking forward to that initiative. I agree with you. Besides the cutting edge of science, also the cutting edge of education is something else that SITC is really known for. And Dr. Ferris, you've been involved a lot in our certification programs and really helping to lead those efforts. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, thank you. Yes, I think one of the key missions for SITC, and it comes up in each of the strategic retreats, is how do we train the next generation of immunology, immunotherapy folks? What's the right mechanism? And as Anna pointed out, staying up with the way information is transferred. SITC even did an old-fashioned textbook. People don't use textbooks as much, but it was a very well done textbook, and we were all happy to participate. And so we realized that one of the key attractions of SITC is folks realizing that their immunology and immunotherapy knowledge had perhaps not kept up. As Patrick, you mentioned, before we saw some of the great clinical responses and benefits and survival. And that led folks to want to get back into it. And SITC, with open arms, is happy to kind of give them a refresher. And the concept of the certification is to create a curriculum that has both didactic as well as background, sort of clinically relevant science, but then also summarize some of the clinical data, some discussions around toxicities, since these are unique with immuno-oncology agents. And I was really pleased that SITC, made such an investment and did it, I think, in a high-quality way, creating slides that could be reviewed, that were narrated, got a group of us together, and there's a whole committee that really contributed to this, creating content with 8 modules. And at the end of it, recognizing that this is a big investment on the part of the I hesitate to use the word student because we're all students, but the individual completing the certificate program, that they should have something to show for it. And the concept that maybe this could be renewed periodically since data evolve and new things are discovered. So I was really happy. This grew out of a strategic retreat that SITC had organized some years ago. What is an immunotherapist? I recall a secret ballot from the attendees, many of whom were on the board. Some were who were long time, maybe at the founding level at SITC. And the question was, is an immunotherapist a separate specialty? And it was pretty well evenly split. Oh no, it was established maybe medical oncologists, or no, perhaps it was a separate specialty. And the certificate was a way to reflect, there's no one answer to that, but that the key is to have people trained and provide learning materials and to keep up with new discoveries that happen at SITC or happen in the published literature. And so I was really pleased to be part of it, and credit to SITC for investing in it.
Well, thanks so much for your leadership. You really did a great job on that program. All right, so favorite moments of SITC 2021, Dr. Anderson.
My favorite moment was walking into the first major session, seeing that room nearly full, and seeing some of my European colleagues who had got their tickets within 48 hours of the start of the meeting. It was really amazing to see. I didn't expect to see any of them. And to hear how they had gotten the news the border had opened, purchased their ticket and got on the first flight just to come to the meeting. And that really is a testament of what the meeting provides, how we're one big extended family of investigators all committed to a cause. And it just put a big smile on my face to be there.
Wonderful. Dr. Ferris?
Well, I'd like to say great minds think alike, but my mind isn't quite up to the greatness of Dr. Anderson. But I did have the same exact impression. I would say usually when you come into a meeting and it's hard to find a place to sit, there's a bit of an annoyance to that, and yet this was such a pleasant surprise in a way, because I didn't know. I registered and walked in. So given that that experience was already noted. I will comment on one we've already touched on, which was seeing the checkpoints and seeing the comfort of a bunch of vaccinated, healthy individuals, arm in arm, elbow to elbow, dancing. And I think what we can now safely say a month later is without any super spreader events. So clearly, immunotherapy against viruses works as it does against cancer. So those were my impressions. And then the last little bit was when the Smalley lecture was given, and the number of folks who talked about being back with, as they termed it, their tribe, and seeing their SITC family as their comrades and simpatico scientists. And that was really fun to realize we had missed that for a year and a half.
It was so wonderful to get together with everybody, and it was safe, and it was vaccines were required. Of course, all SITC members believe in vaccines, so that really wasn't too hard to require vaccines. But it was very safe, and I agree with you. That Smalley lecture by Dr. Crystal Mackel was just amazing, and her mentee also won the Rosenberg Award, which was really a highlight. It's second year that we gave out this Rosenberg Award, an endowed award, and it's become one of the most competitive awards of SITC. It's really great that we can give those to young investigators, something we're really going to emphasize more in the future, young investigators getting awards. Speaking of young investigators, why don't you guys give a little advice for a young investigator interested in immunotherapy? Dr. Anderson.
Join SITC and be there every year and participate in every possible event. Sparkathon is great. Get involved with the Early Career Scientists Committee. They do a lot of things. One of the societies that does the most for early career sciences is SITC.
Great. Dr. Ferris.
Completely agree with that. I might say in my own lab group and around our cancer center, we're huge SITC supporters and believers. But sometimes I find folks say, because of the quality of the science at SITC, this project isn't quite ready, or, I'm not sure it can make it. And I will tell you, you never will lose. You will always benefit. So submit your work. Even getting a poster is sometimes challenging because of the popularity of the meeting. But folks put as much time and effort in going by the posters and communicating with the presenters. It's not a sort of meeting where if you're not on the podium, you're nothing. On the contrary, you'll get fantastic ideas, insights, collaborations, at all levels. From the folks who may be world giants, or Nobel laureates come by your poster. So submit, get feedback, and participate, and your science will get better and better.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sometimes for a young person, a poster is even better than being on the podium because you can have that interaction with many of the giants in the field. So it's like you guys. So it's really wonderful. All right, we're going to end with a fun little activity called Sell Your City. So Dr. Ferris, you're from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Tell us why someone would just love to come visit Pittsburgh.
Let me give you my elevator pitch. We've got 3 pro sports teams, who have had any number of Super Bowls, Stanley Cup rings. I myself was on the Penguins medical staff, so I have a Stanley Cup ring. Great restaurants, 15 or 20 minutes from the outdoors. A fun fact you may not know is that we have more bridges than Venice, 466 bridges, 3 more than Venice. So we're the city of the 3 rivers, of course. And are able to balance an urban feel with nature and the outdoors.
Dr. That was a great response. Dr. Anderson, guess where SITC 2022 is going to be?
Boston,
Massachusetts. So sell your city.
Well, our sports teams are currently better than Pittsburgh sports teams. So there's that. We have a great city. I always like to refer to Boston as kind of like a mini New York. We have a lot to offer. We have a very international, very young population here because of all of our secondary education institutions that are here, some of the top schools in the country. And we have a lot of history. It's a wonderful, very walkable, very easy to navigate city. We have great food. We have a lot of culture around just being Bostonians and things we do here, the way we pa kakas and all those things. And I look forward to having SITC here for a change.
Can I point out that she left out the part about how that one football player from Boston moved to Tampa?
Yeah, that's true. So sad.
Yeah, we're very happy about that.
At least he didn't go to Pittsburgh.
Just a few days ago, he threw the 58-yard touchdown pass in overtime. We're very happy about that.
We still love Tom.
Yeah, and when he went to play the Patriots, it was clear that he still loves Boston. So that was very clear. But we're very happy and excited to have SITC 2022 in Boston, Massachusetts. Really looking forward to that next year. Really want to thank Dr. Anna Anderson, Dr. Robert Ferris for talking about SITC 2021 today.
Thank you. Great job. Thanks, Patrick.